Honestly, after seeing this list, I actually, you know what? You know what? Screw it. I am going to make a video sometime in the future about finding an eighth wonder of the world because one, the eight wonders of the world sound way much better, but also I feel like Africa kind of got screwed over. There's like nothing in Africa. This seven wonders list just doesn't feel complete. The seven wonders of the world. We all have our own vision and opinions on what these seven structures are. But what I don't understand is why everyone is okay with there just being seven. I mean, doesn't the eight wonders of the world sound just way better? Today, I want to do a stupid amount of research trying to determine what an eighth wonder of the world would be. Like a real world structure that I think fits this description. But first, we have to figure out what makes the current seven, and why other options weren't made official. And lastly, we just have to find something that checks all the boxes set up by these two factors. So, without further ado, no more waiting around, let's get right into it. So the first important thing to think about is, why are these seven structures the world wonders? What makes them unique? What sets them apart from the rest? And specifically, of course, I'm talking about Christ the Redeemer, the Great Wall of China, the Roman Colosseum, the Taj Mahal, Machu Picchu, Petra City, and Chichen Itza. Basically, something that I already covered months back was that in the year 2000, Switzerland held an online vote, and the seven most voted structures would become the new official seven wonders of the world. And this vote got, as far as I can tell, a confirmed 100 million votes between over 200 different options. But of course, once you get past the fact that most of these votes were countries trying to increase tourism in their country, there were probably something more like 40 million. So with all of this information, I decided to dedicate an hour of my life to finding the full 200 structures list from the original vote. But this led me down a rabbit hole where I ended up finding seven wonders of the modern and ancient world. But this also doesn't really add anything, but I also found the seven natural wonders of the world, which all of these are useless to me. And of course, with these discoveries, I spent even more time finding a lot of useless stuff, but eventually I found the list of 200 official structures for that original vote. More specifically, 176, but there are also other structures that are left out of this list that I found later, but that's fine. This is the closest thing to the official list I could find. So what makes these not the seven wonders of the world? Let's take a look. With a list of nearly 200 being shortened down to 7, let's just say that a lot will be left in the dust. You had structures ranging from South Africa to Ecuador to Japan to Canada to Turkey, and this allowed for quite the list of forgotten wonders. The first thing I noticed was just how much of this list was dominated by India, Italy, and Spain. In fact, just a lot of the Mediterranean was included, which I guess is pretty expected. But there were also way more South American suggestions than I was expecting. One of my favorites being the Salt Cathedral in Colombia. I wasn't really expecting anything from Canada, but the Chateau Frontenac, which is absolutely not how it's pronounced in the slightest, but anyways, it was a pretty nice surprise to me. But like I said, unsurprisingly, Europe dominated this entire list. Big Ben is a classic, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. The Mostar Bridge, it was a nice surprise, but I don't really see it as a world wonder. Turkey's Hagia Sophia was really cool, but it couldn't quite stand against some of these other options. And of course, because Spain needs its head and everything, their San Lorenzo Monasterio de El Escorial was actually pretty cool. I mean, look at this thing. But also, this list includes a lot of things that aren't even man-made in the slightest. Like, these aren't wonders of the world. They're part of that natural wonder of the world list I mentioned earlier, but there were two that I just really wanted to mention. My personal favorite being Big Hole in South Africa. They just named it Big Hole. But my actual pick for a new natural wonder of the world, if we also just want to say that, would be this place in Indonesia that I can't pronounce. It's amazing. I also thought the inclusion of the Mecca in Saudi Arabia would be an interesting pick, but then it occurred to me that it would honestly be better off as just a religious structure because I feel like tourism would just ruin that place. Also, before I get into the research, I just want to clarify, for my new, totally official 8th wonder of the world, I will not be including anything from countries that already have wonders, like Italy, Brazil, India, etc. And I will also not be including the pyramids of Giza, because that's kind of cheating, but also I feel like I just want to let them stand as the king of the ancient wonders instead of just being another modern one. I was also trying to steer more towards Africa because every other continent had a wonder other than Africa. It's a place full of history and structures and really cool things, so I figured they deserved some part on this list. So without further ado, it's time for some research. One of the first things that really jumped out to me was the United States, of course, and more specifically the Statue of Liberty. It's a pretty big symbol over here, but it's also rooted in a big change economically in the entire world with the rise of the US. However, it didn't quite make the cut after more research was done. Like I said earlier, I wanted to lean more towards Africa to find a wonder because Africa kind of gets left out of everything. And one place that instantly came to mind was Timbuktu. It's a pretty famous little landmark all the way over here in Mali. I mean, it works, it's famous, it's a landmark, it's in Africa, and it's decently sized. But it's also in the middle of the Sahara, underpopulated, and the tourism from being a world wonder would likely lead to lots and lots of problems without major preparations. Also, the war is a bit of a problem, but also overall it just doesn't really fit with these other landmarks. Like, look at these huge, grand, famous monuments. Then there's this little popular city out in the desert. It just ended up not fitting with the rest. And with the failures in Africa, I turned my head towards Europe and surprised myself when I decided the Belvedere Castle in Austria could actually be a pretty good pick. But then, of course, I couldn't help myself. I looked back at Africa, and the Leptis Magna in Libya was such a cool place. It's this huge, cool city with lots of ancient landmarks and historical structures from the Roman Empire, so obviously it's going to be really cool. And it really seemed like the perfect... Will! God damn it. Will, aren't you forgetting the Kremlin? That cool, huge castle-like building in Russia? It's perfect for this list. Yeah, I guess you're actually right. This iconic building would work very, very well. However, with this discovery, I decided to keep looking, and I found 3 places in the world that I figured would do the job and be great picks. But one of them stood above them all, and I figured that was my 8th wonder. But first, let me cover all 3 of them. Now, before I go into this, I feel like I should reinstate that I am not attempting to offend anyone and their countries with this list. I'm just going based off of history, logistics, and cool-ass designs. And I bring this up because if this video were to ever come across someone living in, I don't know, Japan, for example, you know, they might watch this and say, this guy chose Portugal Sintra over us? This huge castle in Portugal screams history. It's not really that famous of a landmark, but goddamn is it cool looking, with lots of history hidden inside. Not only does it give a European country not named Italy a famous landmark, but it also specifically helps Portugal, a cool country in Europe that no one really talks about. Everyone just calls it the smaller Spain. And also just look at these images. This place is awesome. It's not the most prevalent structure in Portugal, not the most historical, and probably not even the coolest. But damn, it sure deserved a spot in the top 3 for being solid at all of these. But do you know structure that is actually heavily tied to a country's culture while still looking cool? That's right, let's take a quick look back at Africa, at Ethiopia, and the Lalibela Rock Hen. This big church in Ethiopia looks cool as hell, has actual historical and cultural presence in the country, and would honestly be a really nice fit with the rest of the wonders. It is kinda just there, and let's be honest, tourism would absolutely ruin it, but still, I can't help but feel like this is the perfect 8th wonder of the... As much as I really wanted to make this wonder an African structure, there was really nothing I could do to not conclude that Cambodia's Angkor Wat is the perfect 8th wonder of the world. It's not big because it's tall, it's big because it's long and wide, which really makes it stand out as an 8th wonder, but even with standing out, it still fits right in. It's already fairly famous, but making it a wonder of the world would likely increase tourism in Cambodia as a whole, to the people who actually recognize it for such an awesome place that it is. And it's also a pretty historical monument that dates back many, many, many years. Yeah, it's old. I'm talking even before the Sam Raimi movies. And all of this and more is why I think Angkor Wat should be the 8th wonder of the world. Easily. This was a bit of a strange video for my channel, but, you know, I kind of liked it. And if any of you have an issue with anything I said, I just want to be clear that I'm not some professional looking over these structures with a magnifying glass and a history degree. I'm a high school sophomore judging entire countries based off of their infrastructure. Yeah, so I'm just gonna see myself out. You have fun. Don't let the bed bugs bite.